Today's episode is about learning to normalize the hard parts of life. The parts that we don't want to talk about, but we really need to if we're going to eradicate shame. So, let's do this. Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Show Up with Gentry. I'm Gentry, and this is the space where we figure out how to show up for life so we can grow as humans and propel humanity forward. This morning, my wife and I were driving to a doctor's appointment. It was an appointment connected to our fertility journey and trying to start our family, which I shared a little bit about in a recent video. We were driving, and she said to me, I would like to film more of this process and share more of this process with people. I gotta tell you, I had this gut reaction of like, why? Why would we do that? Why would we share the details of what we're going through? Now, mind you, she and I have decided to talk more openly about our experience. But even though we've decided that, I still had this gut reaction, this shame-based reaction that no, we can't let people in. But I pretty quickly pushed that aside. I didn't even express it to her because I realized that there's a reason we do this. There's a reason we need to share openly. There's a reason we need to normalize conversations about the hard parts of life. And it's so that we aren't alone anymore. I know this has happened to you. You've gone through some situation. It's been incredibly painful. It's been incredibly hard. But you didn't talk about it. And so you felt isolated and you felt alone and you thought, nobody understands what I'm going through. Nobody knows what it's like to be me. And then you heard someone talk about it. And suddenly something shifted inside of you and you went, wait a minute. If they understand what I'm going through, then maybe I'm not alone. This is the point. This is why we need to normalize hard conversations around the hard things. Okay, before I go more into this, let me be really clear about something. This is not speaking your truth. You know that phrase that people say, well, I'm just speaking my truth. This is not that. Speaking your truth is an excuse to say what you want, when you want, how you want, and to who you want, without any regard for how that person might perceive it or receive it. It's inherently selfish and a little bit disrespectful. Speaking your truth is a way to say what you want with a disclaimer instead of learning how to say what you want in a way that is helpful. This is not speaking your truth. This is learning to normalize conversations in ways that are authentic and helpful for all of humanity. Normalizing these conversations, it's about learning to share your wounds. It's learning to share these things that we don't want to share. It's talking about your infertility journey, your divorce, your breakup, what it was like to lose a parent or a child, miscarriages, diseases, losing a job, going through abuse, being alone. Whatever your hard thing is, that's what I'm talking about. And it doesn't matter if what's hard for you isn't hard for me, because we don't rank each other's pain. Hear me, my friends. If you are ranking your pain with someone else's pain, stop. Because what's hard for someone else might not be hard for you, but what's hard for you might not be hard for someone else. So just stop. Instead, let's learn to have these conversations and make them normal around all of these parts of our life that we really don't want to share. But when we do, we realize we're not alone. There are people who understand what we're going through, and we can get through anything together. Okay, so why don't we? Why are we so unwilling to share the things that are happening? Shame. It's shame. From a young age, we are taught to feel shame for any inadequacy, anything that could be perceived as a weakness, or anything that could be thought of as something is wrong with us. Shame. Shame keeps us from normalizing conversations around the hard parts of life. Shame is so ingrained in us. Every single human being on this planet, whether you realize it or not, is dealing with shame on some level until you learn to release it. Shame makes us believe that if a situation is more than we can handle, we can't talk about it because it's like admitting that something is broken with us. Shame wants you to think that something is wrong with you. It makes you connect the hard situation with your self-worth. This is so backwards. You are not broken, but shame wants you to believe that you are. If you believe that you're broken, why would you talk about the situations that make you feel broken? Even though what you're experiencing isn't unique to you, shame wants you to think it is. And as long as you feel broken, you'll stay quiet about the things that other people need to hear so that we don't feel so alone, so isolated. What you are is a human being having the full human experience. The beautiful, incredible, amazing moments, but also the dark, painful, depressing moments. That's the full spectrum of the human experience. But somewhere along the way, we're taught to keep the shadow side of life in the shadows. Don't talk about it. So we just sit around feeling miserable and alone in our pain and our grief and our sadness because no one is brave enough to normalize talking about those things. You're a human being having the full spectrum of the human experience. It works like this. My wife and I were trying to start our family, but something isn't working. So for us, starting a family looks like doctor's appointments and shots and medical procedures. It's not exciting, it's not fun, it's not romantic, it's not private, but that's our experience. And millions of couples around the world are experiencing the same thing. But because we feel like something is broken within us, we don't talk about it. And so an isolating situation becomes even more isolating. Shame wants us to believe that something is broken with us. And if we admit it, then we're also admitting that we're broken. But what if shame wasn't part of the equation? What if we didn't think that we're broken and we would just be free to talk about something that so many other people need to talk about? We'd be free to share the highs and the lows and the good moments and the dark moments. And in doing that, other people would also be free to talk. If shame wasn't part of the equation, we would know how to separate the hard situation from the person experiencing the hard situation. You are not your pain or your darkest hour or your biggest failure. Do you hear me? You are not broken. You are a human having the full human experience, which some days is depressing and devastating and isolating and painful and invasive. Sometimes it's heartbreaking, but it's okay to admit that and talk about that. Because you are not your darkest day. You are not your pain. You are not your sadness. But until we learn to normalize talking about the shadow side of life, we will keep believing that somehow because we're experiencing hard things, that we are alone and that we are broken and that no one can ever know. There is a better way. So my friends, let's learn to show up and normalize the hard conversations so that we can collectively heal our wounds, find sanctuary in one another, and understand our worth on a very deep level. Thank you, friends, for watching another episode of Show Up with Gentry. I really hope that today you understand deeply that you're not broken, you're not your darkest day, and it's okay, and we need to learn to talk about these things so that we feel less alone. Do me a favor, give me a thumbs up and share the video, like the video, help spread this message, because I'm on this mission to create a community of people that want to propel humanity forward, grow as humans so we can propel humanity forward. And I need your help to do that. Until next time, my friends, keep an open mind, an open heart, open hands, and stay curious.